What's up, guys? Welcome back to Horror Stories. In today's video, you'll hear some truly terrifying real-life encounters. Stories that real people have actually experienced and lived to tell. So make sure you stick around till the end, because every single story here is absolutely worth listening to. Before we begin, please hit that subscribe button and drop a like on the video. It really helps the channel grow and I appreciate it more than you know. And let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. I used to work as a medical records clerk at St. Vincent's Hospital in Pittsburgh. Night shift, 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., 3 nights a week. It paid better than days, and honestly, I liked the quiet. Most of the time, I'd be alone in the records room in the basement, scanning documents, filing paperwork. The building was old, built in 1952, and everything down there had that musty smell you can't quite get rid of. This happened in March of 2019. I remember because it was right after my daughter's 8th birthday, around 2 a.m. I needed to retrieve a file from the overflow storage room at the end of the hall. The basement hallway was long, maybe 70 feet, with those industrial fluorescent lights that hummed constantly. Half of them were always flickering. I was walking down when I saw someone coming toward me from the other end. A woman in scrubs. I could see her shape clearly, average height, dark hair pulled back. I figured she was coming from the morgue area, which was accessed through a side corridor down there. Here's the thing. As we got closer, I started to notice details. She was wearing the same color scrubs as me, that teal blue that St. Vincent's used for clerical staff, not the navy that nurses wore. And her hair. It was in the same messy ponytail I'd put mine in that night. I was about 15 feet away when I realized she was walking the exact same way I walk, this kind of heavy-footed gait because I have flat feet. I slowed down, she slowed down, I stopped completely, feeling this cold weight drop into my stomach. She stopped. We were maybe 10 feet apart now, and the overhead light between us was flickering badly, making it hard to see her face clearly. But I could see enough. The shape of her jaw, the small mole on her left cheek. I was looking at myself. My mouth went dry. I wanted to scream, to run, but I couldn't move. It just stood there, head tilted slightly to the side, watching me with my own eyes. Then slowly she smiled. Not a friendly smile. Something wrong. Too wide, the light above her went out completely. I ran. I don't even remember making the decision. I just turned and ran back to the records room, slammed the door, and locked it. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely turn the deadbolt. I called my supervisor, told her I was sick, and left. I didn't go back to that hallway. I didn't go back to that job at all, actually. I gave my 2 weeks' notice over the phone and never set foot in that basement again. But here's what keeps me up at night. 2 weeks after I quit, I ran into Marissa, one of the ER nurses I was friendly with. We grabbed coffee and she asked why I'd left so suddenly. I told her I'd gotten a better offer somewhere else, didn't mention what really happened. Then she said something that made my blood turn to ice. "That's funny," she said, stirring her latte, "because I saw you down in the basement last week." Tuesday night around 2 a.m. I was taking some charts down to records and I saw you in the hallway. I called your name, but you just stood there staring at me, then walked into the overflow storage room. I figured you were pissed at me or something. I hadn't worked there in 2 weeks, and Tuesday night I'd been home with my daughter watching a movie. I never told Marissa the truth. What would I even say? Sometimes when I'm lying in bed at night, I think about that thing wearing my face, still walking that basement hallway, waiting for someone else to see it. Waiting for me to come back. I never will. In the summer of 2021, my dad had a heart attack. Triple bypass surgery at Mercy General in Sacramento. I took a week off work to stay with him during his recovery. The surgery went fine. He was moved to room 407 in the cardiac wing on the 4th floor, a private room at the end of the hall. I practically lived in that room for 5 days, sleeping in the recliner chair, eating terrible cafeteria food, watching him slowly get better. The first weird thing happened on day 3. It was around 3 a.m. I was half asleep in the chair when I heard someone talking. A woman's voice, soft and rhythmic, like she was reciting something. I opened my eyes and saw a nurse standing at the foot of my dad's bed, her back to me. "Excuse me?" I said quietly, trying not to wake my dad. "Is everything okay?" She didn't turn around. Just kept talking in that low, steady voice. I couldn't make out the words. I sat up, fully awake now, my heart starting to pound. "Hello?" She stopped talking. Then slowly, she turned to face me, except she didn't have a face. Where her features should have been, there was just smooth skin, like a mannequin. I could see the suggestion of where eyes and a mouth should be, shallow indentations, but nothing else. I couldn't breathe. I wanted to scream, but nothing came out. She tilted her head, that terrible blank face pointed right at me, and then she walked toward the door. Not fast, just a casual, steady walk. She passed within 3 feet of me, and I swear to God, I could smell antiseptic and something else, something rotten underneath. She walked out into the hallway, and I heard her footsteps fade away. I didn't move for at least 10 minutes, just sat there shaking, staring at the empty doorway. My dad slept through the whole thing. In the morning, I asked his day nurse if anyone had checked on him during the night. She looked at the chart and shook her head. "Last check was at midnight. Next one's not till 6. I didn't tell anyone." Who would believe me? But that wasn't the end of it. On the 5th night, my last night there before Dad was discharged, I woke up around 3 a.m. again. I don't know why. Some instinct. The bathroom light was on. The door was cracked open and I could see a sliver of harsh fluorescent light cutting across the dark room. I hadn't turned that light on. My dad was asleep. Hooked up to his monitors, everything beeping steadily. I stayed in the chair, frozen, watching that crack of light. Then I heard water running. The sink! Someone was in there. My heart was hammering now. I stood up slowly, quietly. I didn't want to look. Every fiber of my being was screaming at me to grab my dad and run. But I had to know. I walked over to the bathroom and pushed the door open. The sink was running, water pouring out. But no one was there. I turned off the tap with shaking hands. As I did, I glanced up at the mirror. Written in the condensation on the glass were 2 words. "Get out." It woke my dad immediately. Made up some excuse about him looking pale, about wanting a nurse to check on him. I got him moved to a different room that same morning. Told the staff I didn't like how far room 407 was from the nurse's station. He was discharged the next day, healthy and stable, but before we left I asked his discharge nurse about room 407, tried to be casual about it. She was an older woman, probably in her 60s, with kind eyes. "Oh," she said, her smile faltering just slightly. "You were in 407? "Yeah, why?" She hesitated, then lowered her voice. "That room has a history. Back in the 90s, a patient died in there. Medical error. Wrong medication. It was a whole thing. Lawsuit, investigation. The nurse responsible..." She paused. "She killed herself. Overdose in the staff bathroom on that same floor. My skin went cold. We don't usually put patients in 407 unless we're full. Some of the staff won't even go in there if they don't have to." I thanked her and left. My dad's been fine since then. Healthy recovery, no complications. But sometimes, late at night, I think about that faceless nurse standing at the foot of his bed. I think about those words on the mirror, and I wonder if I hadn't woken up, if I hadn't gotten him out of that room, would he have made it home at all? This happened to me in October 2020, right in the middle of COVID. I was living in Chicago, and I'd been having these terrible headaches for weeks. My doctor finally ordered an MRI scheduled for 10 p.m. at Northwestern Memorial's Imaging Center. Late night appointment because they were trying to space people out. The imaging center was on the 2nd floor, connected to the main hospital but in a separate wing. When I arrived, the place was dead quiet. Just one receptionist behind a glass partition, barely looking up when I checked in. "Have a seat," she said. "We're running about 20 minutes behind." The waiting room was small, maybe 10 chairs, bad fluorescent lighting, a few old magazines on a table. I was the only one there. I sat down, pulled out my phone, and started scrolling. About 5 minutes later, an old man came in. He didn't check in at the desk. Just walked past it and sat down 3 chairs away from me. He was wearing a hospital gown and those non-slip socks they give you. His skin was grey, almost waxy, and his eyes were unfocused. I figured he was a patient from upstairs, maybe confused, but something felt off. He was completely still. Not fidgeting, not looking around. Just staring straight ahead at the wall. And he wasn't breathing. I watched his chest for a full minute. No movement at all. I glanced at the receptionist, but she was looking down at her computer, oblivious. "Sir?" I said quietly. "Are you okay?" He didn't respond. Didn't even blink. My skin started to crawl. I stood up, thinking I should tell the receptionist something was wrong with this guy. But before I could, a woman walked in. She looked maybe 50, wearing a blood-stained nightgown. Her hair was matted and wet. She didn't check in either. Just walked straight past the desk and sat down on the other side of me. The receptionist still didn't look up. Now I'm starting to panic. I looked at the woman. Her eyes were open, but they were milky white, like cataracts, except worse. And her lips were moving, just barely, like she was whispering something over and over. I leaned away from her, my heart pounding. Then a teenager walked in. Then a middle-aged man. Then an elderly woman in a wheelchair. All of them in hospital gowns or patient clothes. All of them with that same grey, waxy skin. All of them silent and still. They filed in one by one and sat down, filling every chair until I was surrounded. None of them looked at me. They all just stared straight ahead. I stood up, gripping my keys so hard they cut into my palm. I walked over to the receptionist. "Excuse me," I said, my voice shaking. "Who are all these people?" She looked up at me, confused. "What people?" The patients. They just..." I turned around. The waiting room was empty. Every chair was empty except mine. The receptionist was staring at me now, eyebrows raised. "Sir, are you feeling all right?" I couldn't speak. I just nodded and sat back down, my legs shaking too badly to stand. She went back to her computer. I waited alone in that empty room for 15 more minutes before they called me back for the MRI. The whole time I could feel them. Even though I couldn't see them anymore, I knew they were there, sitting in those chairs, waiting. The scan came back normal. No tumors, no abnormalities. The headaches went away on their own a few weeks later, but I did some research. That wing of the hospital used to be the old emergency department back in the 70s and 80s before they built the new one. Hundreds of people died there. Maybe thousands. I think about those people in the waiting room a lot. I think about how calm they were, how patient. Just sitting there, still waiting for someone to call their name. I'm a hospital security guard. I've worked at the same hospital in Atlanta for 6 years, Emory University Hospital Midtown. I've seen a lot of weird stuff on night shifts. People do strange things at 3 a.m., but nothing prepared me for what happened in February 2022. We got a call around 1:30 a.m., alarm triggered in the pediatric wing, 3rd floor. Probably nothing. Those alarms went off all the time, usually just a door left propped open or a motion sensor glitching. I headed up there with my flashlight and radio. The pediatric wing at night is eerie, even on normal days. All those bright, cheerful murals on the walls, cartoon animals, rainbows, they just look wrong in the dark. I checked the main hallway. All the doors were closed, everything looked normal. Then I heard it. Laughing. A child's laugh, high and bright, coming from the playroom at the end of the hall. My first thought was that a kid couldn't sleep and had snuck out of their room. It happens sometimes. But when I got closer, I realized the sound was wrong. It wasn't happy laughter. It was too loud, too repetitive, like a recording on a loop. I pushed open the playroom door. The room was dark except for the glow from the fish tank built into the wall. The laughing stopped immediately. "Hello?" I called out. "Anyone in here?" Nothing. I swept my flashlight across the room. Toys scattered on the floor. A play kitchen, bookshelves, everything still and silent. Then I saw her. A little girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old, standing in the corner by the window. Her back was to me. She was wearing a hospital gown and holding a stuffed rabbit. "Hey, sweetie," I said, keeping my voice gentle. "You should be in bed. Let's get you back to your room, okay?" She didn't move. I walked closer. "Where's your room, honey?" She turned around. Her face was blue, dark blue, like she'd been underwater too long. Her eyes were bulging and bloodshot. Her mouth hung open, and there was something black dripping from it, down her chin, onto her gown. I stumbled backward, my flashlight falling from my hand. She smiled, this awful, wrong smile, and took a step toward me. I grabbed my flashlight and ran, just ran. I didn't stop until I was in the stairwell, my radio clutched in my shaking hand. I called it in. Told my supervisor there was an unsecured patient in the playroom, possible medical emergency. 3 nurses and another guard went up there. The playroom was empty. They searched every room on that floor. Every patient was accounted for, asleep in their beds. I filed a report, wrote down exactly what I saw. My supervisor looked at me like I'd lost my mind, but he didn't say anything. The next day I did some digging, talked to some of the older nurses who'd worked there for decades. One of them, Linda, got quiet when I mentioned the playroom. "What did you see?" she asked. I told her. She nodded slowly. "You saw Emma. We don't talk about it much, but she's been seen before. Usually by security, sometimes by night staff. She died in that playroom in 2008. Terrible thing. She was 6. Congenital heart defect. She was playing and she just collapsed. By the time the code team got there, it was too late. But her face," I said. I know," Linda interrupted. We think that's how she sees herself now. Blue, oxygen deprived, the way she looked when she died. I've been on night shift for 4 more years since then. I avoid the pediatric wing if I can. But sometimes when I'm making my rounds, I hear it again. That laughing, it never sounds happy. I'm a phlebotomist. I draw blood for a living, working at a hospital in Boston, Massachusetts General. This happened just last year, November 2023. I was working the evening shift, 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. Around 9:30, I got a call to go up to the 9th floor for a late add-on. Post-surgical patient needed labs drawn before morning. No problem. I grabbed my supplies and headed to the elevator bay. Mass General is huge, and there are multiple elevator banks. The one closest to the lab is older, kind of slow, but usually empty at night. I pressed the call button and waited. The elevator arrived, and the doors opened. There was a man inside. He was standing in the back corner, facing the wall, wearing a hospital gown, bare feet. His hair was long and greasy, hanging down over his face. "Hey," I said. "Going up?" He didn't respond. The elevator was empty otherwise, and I needed to get upstairs. I stepped inside and hit the button for 9. The doors closed. As we started moving, I noticed something. The elevator smelled wrong. Not like antiseptic or bodies or the usual hospital smells. It smelled like soil, like dirt and decay. I glanced at the man in the corner. He still hadn't moved, hadn't turned around. The floor indicator above the door climbed slowly. 4, 5, 6. Then between 6 and 7, the elevator lurched and stopped. The lights flickered, my stomach dropped. I pressed the emergency call button. Nothing. Pressed it again. Still nothing. "Great," I muttered. That's when the man spoke. "You shouldn't have come in here." His voice was low, wet sounding, like he had fluid in his lungs. I froze. "Excuse me?" I said. "You shouldn't have come in here." He still hadn't turned around. My hand went to my phone, but there was no signal. We were stuck between floors. "Look," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "The elevator's just stuck. Maintenance will get us moving in a minute," he laughed. It was the worst sound I've ever heard, this bubbling, gurgling laugh. Then he turned around. His face was rotted. I don't know how else to describe it. His skin was grey-green, peeling away in places. His eyes were sunken and filmy. His mouth hung open, and I could see black, swollen tongue inside. He smiled, showing broken brown teeth, and took a step toward me. I backed into the corner, my supplies clattering to the floor.
"Stay away from me," he kept coming. One slow step at a time. The smell was overwhelming now.
I was gagging, tears streaming down my face. Then the lights went out completely. I heard his footsteps closer and closer. I heard his breathing, that wet, rattling sound. I felt his hand on my arm. His fingers were cold.
"So cold it burned," I screamed. The lights came back on.
The elevator lurched and started moving again. I was alone, completely alone. My supplies were scattered on the floor. My arm, where he touched me, had 5 purple bruises in the shape of fingers. They lasted for 2 weeks. When the doors opened on 9, I stumbled out.
A nurse was waiting in the hallway and caught me before I fell. "Are you okay?" she asked. "You look like you've seen a ghost," I didn't answer. I couldn't. I reported the elevator as malfunctioning.
Maintenance checked it the next day, said there was nothing wrong with it. But I asked around, found a janitor who'd worked at MGH for 30 years. He told me that elevator used to service the morgue, back before they renovated the basement in the 90s. They sealed off the old morgue entrance, but the elevator shaft still goes down there. Down to that empty, dark space. People see things in that elevator sometimes, he said, especially at night. Best to take the stairs. I do now. I always take the stairs. But sometimes, when I'm waiting for the other elevator, the new one, the safe one, I see the old elevator doors open, and sometimes, just for a second, I see him standing there in the back corner, facing the wall, waiting.